Good morning, everyone, to the one that are following us from Europe, and good afternoon for people following us from Asia, maybe. Today, the topic is our CUBo machine. It's a completely different concept of gelato machine compared to the other gelato machines that we have in Ice Team 1927, with an interesting approach to the batch freezing process and also the selling process. So we're going to speak a lot about this machine, and together with that, we're going to see also our vision machine that is, let's say, a development of the CUBo line. So I just quickly introduce myself for the one that do not know me, and Ice Team 1927 as well. I'm Jacopo Kelly, gelato chef, working for Ice Team 1927, teaching how to make Italian artisanal gelato around the world. Ice Team 1927 is a company making, so producing, designing, and inventing gelato machines. We are based in Bologna, Italy. Here I'm making this webinar from Bologna. And as I said, today we're going to see one of our gelato machines. We have in program many webinars in this month. So during the whole May, we will present online different kind of machines, different kind of technology. So I invite you to follow us for the whole month. So let's start immediately with our gelato machine. Here in the back, as you can see, I have both of them. So the CUBo there on my right and the Vision on the left. They are far away from now for now, but we will go closer. During the webinar, you saw for sure already, we will use two different cameras. So one here where I'm talking now, and another one closer. So you can see in detail what we're going to do, how we're going to play with the machine, and which settings we will use. You can use the chat to ask any questions. So feel free to write down whatever you want, any kind of question regarding, obviously, the topic we are discussing today, but also if you need something about gelato in general or whatever it is. I will read all of them and answer them at the end of the webinar. So don't worry if I'm not answering. I will just answer everything at the end, okay? So, CUBo. Why CUBo is a completely different concept of gelato making, as I said. CUBo is an answer to a request of the market, we can say, that is to make artisanal gelato in a professional way, but in small quantities. So on the market, we know there are already quite a lot of gelato machines for, let's say, home using, okay, home cooking, so home production, small gelato machines like 700 grams, 1 kilo, 1.5 kilos, something like that. But the main problem of that technology usually is that it has not the same performances of a professional gelato machine. So what we did with CUBo was to offer to our customers a machine able to make exactly the same gelato that we can make with a top gelato machine, a professional one, the one that we use every day in our gelato laboratories around the world, or in our restaurants, or whatever it is, and make the same product thanks to the same technology, but in a smaller space, with a smaller machine and a smaller capacity, obviously. So CUBo is quite a successful machine. In the last years, we started selling CUBo all around the world quite a lot, because it is actually very flexible thanks to its small dimension. So we can use CUBo to make, as I said, a small production. I don't know, maybe you have, for example, a restaurant and you don't need to produce 100 kilos of gelato per day. You want to produce just 2-3 flavors 4 kilos, 2 kilos, something like that. And in that case, we can use CUBo to produce that gelato. On the same level, we have, for example, all the gelateria that they want to make some R&D. So if you have a big laboratory with big machines able to produce 10, 15, 20 kilos of gelato in one cycle, maybe you don't have the chance to make small tests. Whenever you want to try a new recipe, whenever you want to test something new, in most of the cases, it's a waste to produce, for example, 10 kilos of gelato just for a test. It's a waste of time, but it's a waste of food and it's a waste of money. So with CUBo, we have the possibility to produce a small amount. Let's start giving some numbers. CUBo can produce up to 2 kilos of gelato in one cycle. That's the reason of the name, CUBo 2. And the minimum is around 800 grams. So with this small range, this range of small quantities, we can exactly, as I was saying, make a test, for example. So we have a big gelato shop. We want to try a new flavor for the season. And before launching the product on the market, we want to make some tests, make different recipes, try which is the one that is perfect for our menu. And in this situation, we can produce, as I said, a small quantity. So test small production for example, restaurants, for sure, but also, for example, for home cooking. And today, in the last 2-3 years, there is quite a trend in, for example, dark kitchens, or as I said, home productions. So, for example, I know very well the Asian market, and in Asia there are many small gelaterias that they are producing in a small home laboratory and packing their gelato in, for example, gelato jars and then delivering it. With CUBo, we can for sure do something like that. So this is, we can say, the concept of the machine. I will produce some gelato. I already have some mix. You can see it here in the plastic jar. But before producing it, I wanted to show you how the machine is composed, which are the components of the machine, and then we'll see how to play with it. So the flexibility that we have in terms of production and setting of the machine, for sure. So we start from, as I said, the components. The best part of this machine, in my opinion, is that it has very few components. We have just 4 pieces here, okay? And why that is good? Because the less pieces we have, the less pieces we need to clean, for example. So having a few pieces give us the opportunity to disassemble the machine very easily, first of all, and very quickly as well, and to clean it again very, very quickly. So which are the components? The first and most important for sure is the beater. We will put the beater at the center of the cylinder, production cylinder. I'll show you from the other camera in a few seconds. And this is the one that will move my gelato. So we know perfectly that to make gelato, we need to get a liquid mixer, and then we will make 2 basically processes, mixing and freezing. Well, the beater is the one that takes care of the mixing. So beater, with the beater, we also have a scraper. This is a plastic scraper that stays here on the beater. It is very easy to remove, as you saw. So I can remove it to clean it, or remove it to substitute also, maybe. And that's the part that will scrape the wall. So the stainless steel beater is just moving the mixer quite quickly to increase the volume of my gelato. And the plastic scraper is scraping the gelato from the wall. The wall is going to be the coldest part of the machine. It's going to be frozen, and it will freeze my gelato. So the gelato stays on the wall, and the scraper scrapes it away. So this is the main part, for sure. And we have just 2 more pieces. This is the part that we use to close the cylinder. As you can see from the other camera in front of the machine, here we have an exit. That's to drain the water during the cleaning. We will see the cleaning process at the end of this short webinar. Anyway, that's the system that we have to close the exit when we are producing. So now I place these here. Perfect. So we are ready to produce. And at the same time, I put the beater inside the cylinder. To close the beater, okay, we will use this screw. So this screw stays on top and it allows us to fix the beater where it is, and then we're able to start producing our gelato. So I will just, as you can see from here, place the beater inside, goes perfectly in, and then I just screw this beater, this screw in. Very good. I don't need any tool, any specific tool, as I said, to assemble the machine. Everything is done by hand very, very quickly. So the machine now is ready to work and it's clean already. So we can immediately start producing. So I can show you how to play with all the buttons that we have available and how to set the machine, okay? So here I already have ready my gelato mix. As I said, the best part of CUBo is that I can produce a gelato exactly like in a normal gelateria. So the recipe of the mix doesn't need any specific parameter. It doesn't need a specific recipe just for CUBo. We can take any kind of recipe that we're using to make gelato in a professional machine and make it. If we are not making gelato, because the first time we approached the gelato business, we can take any kind of recipe for professional gelato making and use it. This gives me the occasion also to add something very important. The machine, when you get a new CUBo, so when you buy a CUBo, you receive also a recipe book. So if, as I said, it's the first time that you approach the gelato business, we don't leave you alone. We give you some tips and many recipes. In the recipe book, there are gelato recipes, there are sorbet recipes, and there is also a chapter about gastronomical gelato, so gelato for restaurants. And so included in the machine, you have this recipe book to get you, to give you some inspirations and to allow you to make some test also with some particular flavors, as I said, like gastronomical gelato. So here I made the recipe from the recipe book of the fior di latte, so very simple recipe. Unfortunately, we are online, so you won't be able to taste this gelato. We are ready to batch freeze this product. An important thing to add, how I prepare this mix. First of all, this mix now it's cold, so it's not warm. It's always better to pour inside CUBo a cold mix from the fridge, so 4 degrees Celsius. And if we plan to pasteurize our gelato mix, as we usually do in our professional laboratories, is obviously better to, first of all, cool it down, because pasteurization, as I'm sure you know, it means warming up and then cooling down to 4 degrees, and then aging the mix. So we suggest to leave the mix in the fridge, as I said, at least 6 hours in order to cool it down perfectly and improve the final product. So with aging, we allow all the ingredients to be mixed perfectly together, all the flavors to be homogenized in a certain way. So this mix was aged, pasteurized, aged, and now we are producing it. There is also an alternative that is making a recipe in a cold process, so without pasteurization. That's definitely possible. We just need to remember that if we're making a recipe in a cold process, we need to use ingredients and a recipe itself that is designed to work in a cold process. If, I'm sure you know it, if I'm using, for example, a neutral, a stabilizer, or a base that is designed to be warmed up, and I do not warm it up, for sure it won't work properly. And the risk is to have a gelato at the end that is not perfectly much frozen with a texture that is not as fine as it could be. So let's stop talking about the recipe. Here I have 2 kilos ready, and I'm just going to pour them inside my CUBo. You can switch to the other camera, and I just wanted to show you the fact that actually inside the CUBo, even if we don't have the possibility, for example, to scale our gelato mix, we have an indication on the level. Here on the beater, you have this small sign. This sign means that if I reach that level, that's the maximum level for my gelato mix. So it means 2 kilos, okay? So we start pouring our gelato, and without scaling, we just check to do not reach that level. As you see, as I told you, I was preparing 2 kilos, so we are perfectly on the level that I just explained you. So we close the lid, very simple. And now we are ready to play on the buttons. I'm using this second camera in order to give you the chance to see closer to the process, okay? So here we have 6 buttons, as you can see. All the ice steam gelato machines, they share the buttons, we can say. So if I have, for example, the cone, you know, the gelato machines from ice steam 1927, the cone means batch freezing process, okay? So in this case, and gelato production. So in this case, we know if it is not our first ice steam machine, that pressing here, for sure, the batch freezing process starts. Anyway, let's have a look to them properly and step by step. We start from the easy one. So stop, obviously, means to stop the machine. So we can use it whenever we need to stop what we're doing, okay? So pressing stop, the machine stops. If we are producing, the machine, after stopping it, will ask for confirmation, because we want to be that you stopped it on purpose, okay? So stop is for stopping the machine. This button is used to mix, so to just move the agitator, okay? So if I press this button in this moment, you can see inside, the beater starts moving. Be careful, we are not freezing. As I said, we are just moving, mixing, okay? So this button is the one that we usually use for cleaning. We pour some water, we will see at the end. We pour some water and we just clean the machine. So here now I stop the machine and we focus on the other buttons. So stop, mixing, arrow up and down here at the bottom. These 2 are the buttons we use to navigate inside the menus and the parameters. So very simple use and very easy to understand. The most important buttons, as for sure you understood, are the 2 on top. Now, as I said, the cone is for production. So whenever I want to start producing my gelato, I just press the cone and it goes. How is the machine set if I start it? Well, here on the screen, I hope you can see it, but here on the left corner, bottom, we have something written, helado. In this case, it's Spanish. It means gelato. Why there is written gelato? Because we selected in this moment the gelato program. So we are saying to the machine that we're making a gelato. Now, which are the programs available? Well, obviously, we can start speaking about the last button, that is the recipe book. So this button is for entering into the recipe book. If I press the recipe book, here you can read, I hope, from the second camera, we have helado, helado alcoholico, helado gourmet, sorbet, so fruit sorbet, alcoholic sorbet, and gourmet sorbet, slash, so granita. So we have different programs available in order to select the one that is perfect for us. In this case, as I said, we're making a fior di latte, so we select helado. To select it, we can do not touch anything for a few seconds or press the code. So now we are in the gelato batch freezing process. I use, before starting the production, I just show you also how to change the language, because the CUBo machine has got many different languages available. So we can press stop and arrow down together for a few seconds to enter into the settings. And here we have the language. Instead of Spanish, we put English, and we save. The machine is uploading the new language. So now we have gelato here, as you can see. And if I go in the recipe book, all the programs were translated into English. So we have alcoholic gelato, as I was saying, made gelato, fruit sorbet, and everything else. Okay, so very easy to set the language as well. You saw maybe other settings. Now I will speak about them, but while we wait, we start the production. So I press the cone, and the machine starts working. As you can see here, the light next to the cone is blinking. It means that the machine is in production. Now, there are many more informations to give you, and I will start giving them to you now, because there are many characteristics of this machine to add to this description. So the first one is why there is a specific, let's say, light for production. Because the machine, the main characteristic and one of the best part of CUBo is that this is not just a batch freezer. So it is a batch freezer, but it is also something like a display, a gelato showcase. Why? Because after batch freezing my gelato, I can also just leave it there. And the machine, it is automatically transformed in a freezer that keeps my gelato nice and clean. So this machine, exactly like the vision we have next to it, we call them gelato machines for dynamic gelato. It means that I cannot just produce my gelato, so batch freeze my gelato, but the machine is designed to keep my gelato there, always creamy. Now, the idea behind this machine is to solve one of the biggest problems of the gelato makers. That is to keep the creaminess of your gelato. Now, if you already made gelato before, you know that when we're using a classical gelato machine, the gelato comes out always super nice and creamy. It's very difficult to make a gelato that comes out of a gelato machine not smooth and not nice and creamy, because the gelato machine gives that texture. The most difficult thing, as I said, is to keep that creaminess for a few hours or a few days in some situations, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 5, 7 days of creaminess. It's difficult because once the classical gelato is taken out from the gelato machine, we usually shock freeze it and then stock it in a showcase or in a pozzetti or whatever it is. Now here, we don't need to do that. We can keep the gelato there, and the machine will constantly, 24/7, check the creaminess and the temperature of my gelato. And whenever the creaminess and the temperature, they start dropping, so the quality of the creaminess is getting worse and the temperature is, let's say, increasing, so getting warmer, the machine will activate automatically again and will keep the creaminess always at the same level. So you understand that the main characteristic next to the fact that, as I was saying before, that you have a professional batch freezer that is anyway a very small batch freezer, the second main characteristic is that it is also able to keep the creaminess of my gelato, okay? So that's the reason why now the light is blinking. When the gelato is going to be ready, you will see that the light will stop blinking and will be switched on continuously, okay? So when the light next to the cone is switched on continuously, it means that the machine is in conservation. So there is batch freezing, and then there is conservation of the creaminess and of the texture of my gelato. One characteristic more to say is the night conservation, the night mode. So what is night mode? I don't know if you saw, but when I was changing the language of the machine inside the menu, the first settings that were shown on the screen were the concept. The concept is that, as I said, the machine is there. We make our gelato. Once that is ready, we keep our gelato nice and cream. But then automatically, if we want, that obviously not mandatory, we can set the machine in order to switch the conservation mode into night mode when we don't need our gelato to be ready. What I mean that if I make my fior di latte today, okay, and I leave it there for a few hours, it's going to be, as I said, fantastic. But let's imagine to keep my gelato there, moving, being frozen for 1, 2, 3 days. For sure, the texture of that gelato is not going to be perfect for a very long time, okay? The more we mix our gelato, the more we risk to stress the structure of our gelato. So in order to avoid this, we add to the machine, as I said, the night mode. Night mode simply means that whenever I want, the machine, at the time that I set, will change the setting, and instead of keeping the creaminess, we'll start keeping 4 degrees Celsius, +4. That is the fridge temperature. So what will happen? Will happen that the gelato will stop moving, will stay still, and it's going to be defrosted slowly, but at a controlled temperature. So we keep the fridge temperature. In this way, the product is going to be 100% safe, and it will stay overnight, let's say, frozen, defrosted, so semi-liquid. Then what will happen? We have 2 possibilities. The first is that in the morning when I arrive, so let's make an example of a normal shop, okay? The shop opens at 12 o'clock. I prepare my gelato. The gelato is ready, stays creamy until, for example, midnight. At midnight, the shop closes. And so I set the machine in order to be switched in night mode at midnight and a half, let's say, so 30 minutes past midnight. And so the machine will switch in fridge mode. In the morning, I can set the machine that manually, whenever I want, I can switch again from night mode to production. So I arrive in the morning and I stop the fridge mode and I go to production. Or the second option, even faster and easier, is that I can set also a time in which the machine automatically needs to switch from night mode to production mode, gelato mode. So what could happen? That, as I said, in the morning, I make my gelato. I sell it for the whole day. At midnight, the machine goes in conservation. The gelato stays at fridge temperature for the whole night. Then, if my shop opens at midday, so 12 o'clock, I can set, for example, that at 11:30, the machine starts the production automatically. I'm not even still at the shop. I will arrive a bit later, but the machine already starts working automatically. It makes my gelato, and when I have to open at 12 o'clock, the gelato is ready, okay? So everything can be done, as I said, automatically. So the best part of this technology, is that I can forget about my gelato. I just pour the mix, and then everything is going to be done automatically. The production, the conservation, the night mode, and the day after again, production, conservation, night mode. So it's a full cycle that never stops and that is always done automatically. That's, in my opinion, quite revolutionary, especially in situations in which obviously gelato is not the main topic. So now try to imagine to be a restaurant owner or a hotel or a catering owner, and for sure gelato is not the main thing you have to do in the day. You know, if you are in a kitchen, you have thousands of things to prepare. You cannot always think also about the gelato. So in that situation, having a machine that makes everything automatically, it's quite incredible and quite precious, we can say. So here we can have a look at the machine. Inside, the gelato is in production. So as you can see, we are making our gelato. It's already semi-frozen, we can say. So it's getting ready. I just wanted to add one information about the two versions available in CUBo. There is, as you can see here, I'm using the CUBo 2i, and then there is just the CUBo 2, so two versions. Which is the difference between them? Very easy. The I version has got the inverter on the beater. So if you already know a bit our machines and our range, you know that one of the main characteristics of the high steam machines is the inverter technology. There is a system that allows you to change the speed of the beater depending on what you need to do, okay? So you can go quite fast if you want to whip your product as much as possible. You can go quite slow if you don't want to over whip and you want to maybe freeze a bit more your gelato. So in the CUBo 2i, we have the inverter. In the CUBo 2, we don't have the inverter, so we just have one speed available, which is the plus, as you can imagine, in the high version, being able to regulate the speed of the beater. You have one more parameter available, and you can change the characteristics of your product depending on what you need to do, which recipe you are doing, and everything else. So this gives us the chance to speak about other settings available here in the screen, okay? So here, as you can see in this moment, which are the information that we can read. First of all, as I said, bottom left, we have the program that we're using, gelato. On the right, bottom right, we have the time, so the clock at this moment. On the top, we have three numbers. We have MI 32, V80, and CI 32. Now, what are we talking about? I mean, what does it mean? What does they mean? What do they mean in terms of regulations? Okay. Now let's start from the left. The MI. MI stands for mix index. So is the index that we use to decide the consistency of our gelato. Again, if you know high steam machines, you already know that we always work on the consistency of our gelato. So even the top batch freezer we have, it always works with the consistency. Consistency means the hardness of my gelato, the level of dryness, we can say, and how much frozen is my gelato. So in the case of CUBo, the index goes from 0 to 50, in which 0 is a very liquid gelato, not much frozen at all, and 50 is a very hard and compact gelato. Depending on which product we are using, so which recipe we are doing, and which product we want to produce, so how compact it has to be our gelato, we can change that setting. How? It's very simple. Whenever I want, even during the production, I can press the code. As you can see, the MI index is, it changed the color, and now the arrows are lighted up as well, and I can increase or decrease the consistency level. So for example, now I set 30. To confirm it, I can simply just press the code again. So now the mix index was changed from 32 to 30. So my gelato is going to be a bit less frozen, a bit more creamy, okay? These obviously, as I said, it depends on the recipe that we're doing and the product that we want to make. The second value, as I said, the V, in this moment is 80, is the speed. V in Italian is velocità, so it's the speed. And that number is telling me how many rounds per minute is doing the beater. 80 is not the number of the rounds, okay, but it's just, again, also in this case, telling me in the range from 0 to 100% of the speed in which point we are. So in this moment, we are at 80% of the top speed. This number, in the case of a CUBo 2, is not available. As I said, it's just one speed, so we don't have the possibility to set it. In the case of the CUBo 2i, it is available and it changed automatically during the production. So at the beginning, the mix was very liquid and the machine was going slow speed, around 40, 50. Then slowly, step by step, it is increasing, reaching the speed, the maximum speed that we want. So in this case, I set the program to reach maximum 80, so it won't go higher than 80. We can also go to 100, is not a problem. Okay, so second value that you see on the screen on the top is the speed. We move to the last one. There is the CI on the right top. It is in this moment 32, and that number is telling me that it is the conservation index. So it is exactly like the MI, was mix index, but it is talking about the conservation. What does it mean? It means that I can batch freeze my gelato to a certain level, like 30 in this moment, okay? Then when the machine switches to conservation, we have another setting available. So I can say, okay, now keep my gelato at consistency 32, 35, 28. I can decide how I want to keep my gelato in the next hours, okay? So there are two different numbers. The parameter is the same, but it is referred to two different moments of the production cycle, okay? Quite simple, especially if you are familiar with gelato machines. And it's an intuitive system. So the idea is that we're talking about something very practical, the hardness of my gelato. So once that I start getting familiar with the machine and getting used to the gelato that is coming out, I will be able to say, okay, I want it a bit softer, I want it a bit harder, and I can work on these parameters to do whatever I need or whatever I want. The last thing that you see on the screen is this N on the right. I hope that you read it properly. And the N on the right means that the night mode is activated, okay? So we can use the night mode, the one that I was explaining to you before, or we can deactivate it because in some situation, for example, maybe we don't need. At the beginning, I was telling you, you can use this machine to make, for example, some R&D and make some gelato just to make a test. In that case, you will prepare the gelato, take it out, and maybe stock it. So you don't need the night mode, okay? So depending on the usage that you're going to do of the machine, in some cases, the night mode is useful and you can activate it. In some other cases, maybe it's not necessary and you can avoid it. So we can say that this is it about the, let's say, the characteristics of the machine and all the settings that we have available. I will show you when the gelato is ready, how the machine reacts and how the gelato is going to be. But before doing that and waiting for the end of the production, we are almost there. I don't know, but if you want to check from the other camera, here the gelato is getting ready. The consistency, as you can see, it's fantastic, very, very creamy and smooth. So here we can speed up a bit the picture. As you can see, I always set the parameters, press the cone. So I switch on the cone. This moment I can set the speed. If I want to change the setting for the conservation index, pressing stop, I move to the other one. So we stop. I can change the value that I want to change. Okay. And with the arrows, I can modify, as I was saying, the characteristics and the setting. Okay. So until we wait for the gelato being ready, we can say a few words also about the vision. Now, vision is exactly the same machine. I move the screen a bit lower so you can see the difference and appreciate the difference. The difference is that CUBo is a self-standing machine. Sorry, it's a countertop machine. So it is designed to stay on top of something, a counter or a table. I don't know if you heard the sound. We were saying gelato is ready. And if you check on the screen, the light of the cone, it is not blinking anymore. It's fixed now. Okay, so my gelato reached the consistency that I wanted. And now the machine moved in conservation. So the gelato is now moving a little bit slowly. And now it will stop in a few seconds. Keeping my gelato nice and creamy. Here we are. So now the gelato stays there, being maintained by the CUBo. Anyway, what I was saying is CUBo is countertop, Vision is self-standing. So we don't need a table. We just place the Vision whenever we want, wherever we want. It has wheels, so we can move it very easily from one place to the other. And exactly like CUBo, we don't need any water to connect the machine. That's an important information. Both machines, they are air-cooled. So we can connect CUBo, it's monophase machine, so we can connect it very easily to any kind of plug, exactly the same plug that you have at home to charge your mobile or whatever it is. And Vision as well, it's monophase. So in this case, the difference is, first of all, that we have more than one cylinder. So the Vision, it doesn't exist in the Vision 2 for 2 kilos, but for example, exists the Vision 4. Why 4? Because we have 2 kilos plus 2 kilos. So 2 different cylinders. Now I will show you the machine from closer, from the other screen. Here you can see we have 2 cylinders. Exactly the same cylinders we have in the CUBo, okay? But it is all in one. So this is Vision 4. We have, for example, Vision 6. So it's going to be 3 cylinders, 2 kilos, 2 kilos, and 2 kilos. We have Vision 4 plus 4. That means that we have 2 cylinders, 2 and 2, plus in front 2 more. So we have 4 cylinders in total to have 4 flavors. So many different machines. The name is always Vision. It changes just, as I said, the number of cylinders, so the production capacity. And actually, we have also a few differences in terms of versions, because Vision, it can be self-pasteurizing, for example. So you can get the version in which there is also the self-pasteurizing system. We have Vision with the scooper. So it is called Vision Scooper, and it is exactly the same. But here in front, you have also a system to clean the scooper, you know, the system that we use to make our cup and cones. We have the Vision Reverse, for example, in which instead of being like a normal display, in this case, how it is the system? The system is that me, like the selling person, is staying on this side and is serving the gelato to the customers on the other side, okay? We have the option, as I said, reverse, in which the customers are, it's a self-service system. So the customer arrives and the machine is in his direction, so he can, by himself, take the gelato, make his cup or cone and pay for it and eat it. So different versions of Vision for different concepts. The idea of Vision is to have a machine exactly like CUBo, very easy to use, but with more options in terms of flavors and with a huge flexibility in terms of where I can place the machine, okay? So Vision is perfect, for example, again, for restaurants. I can place my Vision in the middle of the restaurant and serve the gelato directly from the gelato machine, something very interesting and quite unique. Or it can be for a catering, for example. So it doesn't matter wherever you are, with a very simple plug, no need for water connection or anything. You can place your gelato machine and serve the gelato to the guests. So it's a very, very interesting concept and flexible concept, we can say, in order to make a gelato that is, as I said, professional 100%, because the freezing capacity is exactly the same. So we are still making a gelato that is with a texture and a smoothness that is unique. But anyway, it is always live. So it is always in front of the customer, in front of the people that we have in our restaurant or whatever it is. This is quite important because in most of the situations, when we speak about gelato shops, the bad part is the fact that laboratory is hidden, so people don't know how the gelato is made. Here, we are doing everything directly in front of them. So the customer can see what is happening. He can see that I'm making an artisanal gelato, a good product, artisanally made, directly into my shop, directly into my restaurant, and we can conquer his attention, and we will have the chance to maybe sell some more gelato. That's always our main goal. So vision, many different options, as I said. Obviously, to see them, to have an idea of their specific characteristics, you can always go on our website where you can see all the catalogs and all the information in detail for every single machine. But anyway, I hope it's clear how does it work. As you can see here, the system in terms of button and screen is exactly the same. You see the buttons are the same. There is the code, the 2 arrows, the recipe book, stop and mixing. The values on the screen are exactly the same. We have MI, CI, and V for the speed. So nothing changes. This is the reason why I'm not explaining all the machine again. It's not necessary. But for sure, it is a different concept, a different way of working, and even a different size, for sure, okay? So just a few more info and a few more details about CUBo, and then we are almost at the end of our webinar. We said 1 hour, and we are 50 minutes. So we have just some time for some questions, if someone has some questions. So the gelato here is ready. Whenever I want, in order to serve my gelato to the customer, I can take one spatula, open the lid. Here I have my gelato inside, and I can scoop it. As you can see, the creaminess is the best part of this gelato, okay? Here now, I set the machine to a certain level of creaminess, okay? We can, if we want, make it a bit harder. We can make it a bit softer. It doesn't matter. The important, obviously, is that the machine has got the possibility to be set however I need, okay? So it's not me that I need to follow the machine and be forced to make a gelato that is different from what I know and what I want. Having all the settings here available, I can really regulate the machine as I want it, as I need, okay? So, as I was showing you, if I had to make my gelato and just sell it directly from the CUBo, that's what I can do. Whenever I need it, I just open the lid. The machine obviously stops whenever the lid is open, and I'm able to serve my gelato, place it in a container or whatever it is. If on the other side, for example, I just want to make another flavor, or I just want to stop my gelato somewhere because I don't want to keep the machine moving whole day, I can just take it out. So to take out the gelato from there, I can use a spatula and take it out from the top. So I'll show you immediately with a spatula and a classical gelato container. Okay, so we can have any kind of container. This is the one we usually use for gelato. I can just open the lid and start taking out my gelato. And now it is perfectly creamy. And if I want to stock it somewhere, I can just shock freeze it for a while. Let's remember that shock freezing is always a key step when we are making gelato. And then after shock freezing, I can just store it in a freezer. It can be a normal freezer. It can be a freezer specifically organized just to keep my gelato. Just remember that obviously gelato needs a negative temperature. We usually need around minus 15 degrees, okay? Minus 13, minus 16, that's the range. So if I decide that I don't want to use the conservation system of CUBo, that is obviously something that you are free to do. I need a specific temperature for my gelato. The gelato inside now is almost finished. I'll show you the cylinder so you can see how actually easy is the cleaning process. Here we are. So we have our gelato here that is now ready to be shock frozen, as I said, and then stocked. Okay, our fior di latte. Inside the cylinder is perfectly empty, so there is no gelato left around. We don't want any waste. And now to clean the machine, we just, as I was saying, it's super easy. We just need to put some warm water. So here from the top, I take some water and put it inside. I put about 3 liters of water. So the cylinder is full of warm water. I just close the lid, put the machine in stop, because obviously we are not making gelato anymore. The machine asks, why you put stop? Are you sure? Yes, I confirm the stop. And now we just mix for a few seconds. So I press the mixing phase. The machine, exactly as we saw before, is moving. Very simple. And now we wait a few seconds before the, let's say, extracting our gelato from the front, our water from the front. So this is the cleaning process. Super easy, super fast. Once the machine is clean, we can start making another flavor or just leave it there for tomorrow. The pieces inside the beater is stainless steel, so we can clean it in the dishwasher, no problems. The scraper and the screw on top, they are plastic, so we suggest to do not use the dishwasher, just clean them by hand. But as you can imagine, in a few seconds, everything is going to be done. One last information that I want to give you, especially for the vision, but is exactly the same also in CUBo, so it's actually an information that is important for both, is the fact that once that I'm serving my gelato, so let's say that I'm making up my fior di latte, is ready, I start selling it, so the people are coming, and I give 1 cone, 2 cones, 3 cones. After a while, for sure, the gelato is going to be almost over, okay? So we will finish our gelato. Consider, as I said, that you have 2 kilos capacity, so after making 10, 15 cups, the gelato will start to be finished. How does it work in that case? It's very simple. We do the process that we call refill. Refill means that whenever you see that inside the gelato machine, there is about 800 grams left, half a kilo minimum, you can pour some more liquid mix. So usually what I do, instead of preparing just 2 kilos, as I did this morning, I prepare 5 kilos, so a full jar. I pour inside the 2 kilos that I'm able to pour. Then I keep the other 3 in the fridge, always ready to be used. So whenever the gelato is running out, I take the liquid mix and I pour it inside the gelato machine. I press the cone, so production, always the same button. I keep it pressed for a few seconds, and the machine will do automatically the refill process. It means that it will go back to batch freezing for a few minutes. Consider that if we are making the first production, so the machine is empty, warm, and we pour our gelato liquid, it will take about 12-15 minutes to be ready, my gelato, okay? You saw the timing also during the webinar. If we are doing a refill process, it will take 4 6 minutes. So much less. It's going to be a very fast process. Why? Because obviously we usually expect that if I need to make a refill, it means that I have many customers in that moment, and I cannot leave the customers waiting 1 hour before my gelato is ready. So whenever I see that I'm running out of gelato, I pour some more liquid mix, and the refill process takes the minutes that it needs, and then my gelato is ready again. So that's the operation that we do during the daily use of our CUBo and of our visions as well. Okay. Perfect. I can just show you how to take out the water. So we stop the machine. It is still moving. We stop it, and we just open here in front the tray. So the water comes out very simply. We can move a bit more in order to let the water come out faster and more easy. I put about 3 liters, so 3 liters will come out. And as you can see, inside the machine, the water is almost over, and the cylinder is already in. I'll show you now. Goes here, stop the machine, take the water away. And as you can see, the cylinder is already almost clean. I will need just a few seconds with a sponge, and I can remove the beater. So take out, as we were doing at the beginning of the webinar, unscrew the screw and take out the beater. These can be cleaned, as I said, in the dishwasher, the beater, not the scraper. And here, with a sponge, I can just take out the last water inside. Perfect. And here we are. The machine is clean. Very, very simple and easy to do. Okay. I'm just checking if someone wrote any question. If you want to do it now, that's the moment. If there are no questions, the only thing that I have to do is for sure saying thank you to all the people that join us and that spent 1 hour with me. It was a pleasure. I hope it was an interesting demonstration. And we were recording this demonstration. So if you want to have it, you can for sure write us to have the link to download the recording. And also, if you need, if some of you need an appointment with one of our distributor around the world, or area manager, or whatever it is, you can write us an email, and we will put you in contact directly with the distributor of your country and your region. So the email that you can use is info@gelateneo.it. So that's our school email. I say it again, it's info@gelateneo.it. You can find it also anyway on our website. There are many contacts on our website, so no problems. And thanks again. Some of you are saying thanks into the chat. Again, have a nice day and see you soon around the world. Thanks. Bye-bye.